Somebody sent me a video this week and I've got to share it with you. Have a look at this. It's from an organisation called Muslim Votes Matter, which is calling on all Muslims in Australia to all vote the same way.
Welcome to Muslim Votes Matters. As one of the fastest growing minority groups in the country, the Australian Muslim community holds a significant yet largely untapped potential within our national political landscape. We have the power to change things. How? By voting together in a united voting bloc.
Now, it seemed to me that Muslims, like Christians and Jews and atheists, might be very politically diverse. And there'd be lefty Muslims and conservative Muslims. So why would all people want to vote in one homogenous bloc just because of their religion?
As Muslim Votes Matter, we are dedicated to unlocking this enormous community asset. Doing this requires education and awareness, meticulous organisation, forward planning, and effective mobilisation.
Okay, I actually thought this video wasn't real when it was sent to me, so I checked the website. It's all there. You can sign up to support them. Check it out at muslimvotesmatter.com.au. If anyone has any more information about who's behind all this, do send us a direct message on X. We'd love to know more. Voting by religious identification is troubling and dangerously divisive, especially when there's a war on overseas and people want to show solidarity with one side over the other, as we saw in the UK this week. They had city council elections over there and lots of candidates campaigned in predominantly Muslim areas, not on local issues and taking out the garbage, but on the UK's policy towards Gaza and Israel. On the UK's GB News channel, host and politician Nigel Farage had this to say about that.
Well, I've been talking about it for months on this show, the growth of sectarian politics. I said to all of you that George Galloway's win in that Rochdale by-election was not a one-off. Let's have a look at some of the scenes that we witnessed last Thursday night into Friday.
Raise the voice of Palestine! Allahu Akbar! We are coming for you in the general election. Anyone that stands with Zionism, we're coming after you. Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Well, anyone that supports Zionism, they are coming to get. I hope that just means in electoral terms, although I'm not, given the tone of that gentleman's manner, entirely sure. And let's see some of the scenes of celebration. There were about 40 council seats won by people standing on a Gaza agenda. Some stood for the Green Party, some stood for Galloway, some stood as independents. And this all took place in areas that are Muslim majority wards. If that's not a sectarian vote, I don't know what is. How many women can you see in that picture? Absolutely none.
Nigel Farage there on GB News. He points out the organisation Muslim Votes is also active in the United Kingdom, as it seems to be here based on that video I just showed you. I'm assuming that the two are linked somehow, but I could be wrong. Now, 2023 migration to Australia was more than 750,000 people, 765,900 to be precise, a record level and a massive level of migrants for a country of only 27 million people. It's 3% of the population, which is the same percentage as the entire Indigenous population of Australia. And that was just last year. A country like Australia, if it has a strong core culture and values and legal guidelines clearly defined, can tolerate subcultures of citizens with different views without falling apart. But it can't tolerate subcultures of citizens with totally different worldviews unless those citizens work to assimilate and conform to some extent and accept that they won't be able to have their views fully realised within the new host culture. Islam is a culture that is rich and strong, and it has a very different history to ours. There are plenty of similarities, but there are also striking differences. So, too, those raised in communist countries might have a bigger challenge assimilating to Australian free market liberal society. To require immigrants from really different cultures to assimilate is not racist. My ancestors came from other places in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. They assimilated. They came here because they wanted to adopt this Australian Anglo-Celtic Christian-based culture. They wanted the Western classical liberal way of life and the opportunity and freedom that it embodies. Voting by religion, sectarian politics, is not demonstrating respect for the host culture and a healthy willingness to assimilate. It's divisive and separatist. And as Farage points out, the UK has also had massive immigration as a percentage of population.
And what you can see is that if people come in very, very large numbers, they bring their culture with them. And what we're witnessing with this growth of sectarian politics is an attempt to take over councils, is an attempt to win seats in the British Parliament. And over the last couple of days, the organisation called Muslim Vote, that we've highlighted here on this show before, have put out 18 demands to Keir Starmer. Things such as he must ensure that Sharia-compliant pensions are available at every workplace.
Nigel Farage on GB News. Of the 25 mayors in England, 9 are now Muslim. The mayors of London, Birmingham, Leeds, Blackburn, Sheffield, Oxford, Luton, Rochdale and Oldham. And before Australia's media police, Karen and ACMA, come down on me like a ton of bricks, further demonstrating our loss of press freedom here, let me stress there is nothing wrong with that, so long as those mayors are there to represent all of their constituents' interests and not merely to push agendas specific to their religious beliefs and their religious community. But it raises some questions, especially in light of Muslim Votes Matters activity here in Australia. Whoever is behind it, it is well resourced, and they know what they are doing.
There are 151 seats in the House of Representatives. Each circle shown represents a single seat. A party needs a majority, or 76 seats, to form a government. In the last election, the Labour Party secured a government with a slim majority of just 1 seat. This highlights how every single vote can tip the balance of power at the upcoming election. Based on the margins of the last 2 elections, there are currently 18 seats where the Muslim voting population is greater than the margin by which these seats are held. In these seats, our community has the potential to decide the outcome. And with some support from allied groups or as part of a broader swing vote, this number would be well over 20 seats. Doesn't sound like much? Well, consider this. At the last election, the government's majority was just 1 seat. At the election before that, the government's majority was also just 1 seat. And, you guessed it, the election before that was also just 1 seat. In fact, in the last 25 years, no government has had a majority of more than 15 seats.
Sounds very English, that voiceover, doesn't it? That's from muslimvotesmatters.com.au. Did you like that content? Well, there's a lot more where that came from. It comes from a show called The Other Side, which we drop a new episode of every Friday night at 8 p.m. to get you across all the news of the week for the weekend. Get you smart for the weekend without the woke. So join us on adh.tv or right here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Watch full episodes here.